You might be curious about what's in the DMG, or you might have never seen a DMG before, and whether you're an old school player who just is interested in what's in the new version, or whether you're fairly new to the game and want to know if this will help you, I'm going to just flick through the PDF of mine to give an overall view of my own opinion. So the basics should be just that. What does a DM do? Things you need, preparing a session, how to run a session, things like that, the core basics. So yeah, we know that the Dungeon Master does everything the players don't do. Some nice little tips. It's not a competition. You are not against the DM. Now, what's new in the 2024 version? This will cover some people's answers needed for this video. So, every chapter has new advice for DMs of all levels. Good. Tracking sheet. Optional, but for some people, this will be useful. Nice touch. Encounter building assistance. Something that all of us berate the system for, how the CR ratings don't always add up. And a lot of us don't want to be doing maths about how it's balanced and how it's not. Ready-made elements. The DM guide should provide you with, here's some bits for you to jigsaw piece together. So that sounds promising. Expanded and revised magic items. The same with more just to keep things interesting. That's fine. Bastions. Boom. Yes. Very good. I only got into the game properly in 5th edition, so although Bastions used to be a thing, apparently, that's new to me. Lore glossary, just a useful list. Finding players. This answers a lot of the Facebook questions, how do I find players? So yeah, cool, and it's very good. Social media seems to be the place to go to. Scheduling games, yeah, let's not talk about that. DM screen, or not, up to you. Do you play Theatre of the Mind? The 1 hour guideline for prepping. You prep the location, or a riddle and a trick, a puzzle, and fight a low-level encounter. Just to give new DMs an idea of the bite-sized nature needed. You don't need to build a whole world for one session. The 1 hour prep. Focus on the story, identify the encounters, gather any maps. Yeah, whatever. 2 hour prep. Add these steps. Review each possible encounter. Devote time to creating improvisational aids. Skim each unlikely encounter, so have a bunch of things that you can slot in or take out. How to run a session, you recap things, you can allow the players to do that. Encounters, describe the situation, let the players discuss, and then do it. Take breaks, end a session. An example of play we don't need here. Every DM is unique. House rules? Yep, because every table will be different. There'll be some things you like, some things you don't, which is where the conversation of whether the books are good or not is a bit of a moot point, because it's up to you to use or not use. So if you're using things you don't like, you're an idiot. One of the best ways to run D&D is to observe the other DMs in action. Body language, DMs doing voices, rules or not. Just inspiration, being inspired, having a mutual respect, and here is an example of a game expectation sheet. I mean, sure, you could use this, of course you could, but I've never really seen a need. But then again, I don't really put like sexy stuff in my games or anything, but I suppose if there are players where they're all of a certain age, you probably have the ability to do that, whereas mine's more of a younger crowd. You can flick over limits in your session 0, saying, look, I'm going to cover this, there might be domestic violence, is that going to put anyone off? Because you don't need to put it in there. You can imply it briefly. Respect the DM, because it's the DM's game really. You're playing in his world, antisocial behaviour, so that's good. It does talk about things like players exploiting the rules, and it all comes down to, like the mug I have, because I'm the DM, that's why, shut up or go somewhere else. This chapter, running the game. Getting to know your players and knowing whether they like combat, talking, exploration, what is their jam really. Whether they're going to be acting and being character all the time or doing a voice. And who takes the lead. There'll always be someone who's a little bit more of a leader than others, I think. And allowing them to take the story where they want. They don't want to go into the cave you've prepared. They want to go down the road into the forest because they want to cut down trees for arrows, and you're like, okay. So if you need to control the game in a more secret way, you bring in an NPC and they drag the party where you'd like them to go. Talking about running large groups. Now, my preferred amount is 3 players and me. But I know a lot of people have said, no, 7 players is the best. It's up to you. Absent players, they're just not there. Unless they have a certain item, it's like, oh well, he's in the background. You know, it doesn't cause a problem for me really. But I would always say get an extra player so that one can drop out. Multiple DMs, I really don't like that, but that's not all just about me, is it? You can trade DMs, different, one runs one thing on different weeks or however you want to do it. Yeah, different DMs is just something that turns me off, but that's just me. So narration, yeah, the way that you run your NPCs or speak to your table will hopefully inspire them to get a tone of, you're meant to speak back, So if you think roleplay is not enough at the table, you individually talk in character to each one of the players, maybe the quietest ones first. How to give secrets to players who find something away from the party. You can take them to one side, you can message them, or you can have it out in the open and say, look guys, you wouldn't know this, but he does. So yeah, it really breaks down, basically, everything about being a DM in a very simplistic way. A lot of things that are probably in the rules of the PHB. But here, improvising damage. I mean, would you bother looking this up? I don't know. Not at the table, perhaps before. 1d10, burned by coals. If you really wanted, you could print this bit out and pin it to your DM screen. But I'm really not sure how many people would be looking at these tables. But it should have them in, I do agree with that. Running social interaction. Engage your players. Yeah, running exploration. Tracking time, actions in exploration, and then running combat, roll initiative. Well, there's many ways of doing initiative. You can just do it as their challenge rating of a monster. You can do it as their AC, just to be quick. But nowadays, the monster stat blocks do actually have an initiative score of their own on the stat block. I don't go from full health down to 0. I count the other way, from 0 up to their full health. But that's easier for me because I'm an idiot. And the classic positioning and cover rules. Tips on describing as monsters lose hit points, or saying a description rather than just saying it dashes. Keep the game moving. Change the terrain, that's a good note. Makes an encounter much more interesting if the environment changes halfway through. There's a suggestion here that a warg splits open and a gibbering mouth spills out, which is a great surprise and would be fun. You can always end with the monsters or the enemies parlaying, saying, okay, I surrender, I've done that myself. Do you use XP? Do you use milestones? Do you variant training to gain levels? There's a table for that. Chapter 3, DM's Toolbox. Do you bother with alignment? Because I notice a lot of books will say any good aligned creature can't come in this room. There's something, I've noticed things like that where it actually matters, or if you're too long in Avernus, your alignment changes to evil. And that would then be a case of, if you don't use it, you kind of missed out on something quite interesting. Chases, how to run a chase. Escape factors, yeah, very crowded area, an uncrowded area. Chase complications table, wilderness chase complications, that's nice. So it goes through creating a creature, which is just like creating a player pretty much. But it's nice that it goes into the details. Crafting a magic item, modifying a magic item. Yeah, this is all good stuff. Creating a spell, that's nice. These are good little tables, actually, here. The damage and the multiple targets. Curses, magical contagions, and even gives like cackle fever, sewer plague, sight rot, and then talks about death. Death must be fair. How to deal with death scenes, how to deal with everybody dying. And a table for doors, because doors can be very important at slowing the party down, keeping them from the bosses, even portcullises, and that which brings us to dungeon. Dungeon quirks, a nice long dungeon quirk table. It's intended as a tomb, it contains something that led to the downfall of its creators. Nice, mapping a dungeon. Useful stuff. States of ruin, environmental effects, dead magic zone, deep water, extreme cold. Yeah, these are all things to be taken on board. Planar effects, and just a long list until we get to fear and mental stress. Some more tables, useful. Firearms and explosives, if such things are needed. Because in yesterday's video, the monster manual, I noticed some, was it a cultist had a pistol or something? So you got explosives here, how much they cost and where, how to run them, alien tech, divine rank, all about planes, creating religions, hazards, brown mould, fireball, fungus, green slime, yep. cool. Slam that in your dungeons. Poisonous gases, quicksand pits. This is proper DM stuff, thank you. So, marks of prestige when the players level up enough. Fortifications, they're given. It's part of the Bastion stuff, really. They can be rewarded with a certain place of elegance, or the medals, or pieces of land, or special rights, titles. Great. How to run mobs, useful table. How many people would effectively hit out of 100 goblins, just makes it easier. Areas of effect. And then into NPCs, there's a lot of, names are always useful, aren't there? So a table of names is pretty cool. But there's a lot of third-party stuff, and even just Googling online for your NPCs. You can get random D100 tables which work just fine. Come with descriptions of them as well. So we have poisons, purchasing poisons, harvesting poisons, and sample poisons. Great. And there's a bunch, down to wyvern poison. Renown is again more ranks of your heroes. Settlements, creating a settlement. Siege equipment and their stats, all different weapons. Supernatural gifts, blessings and curses are in this game obviously, so these blessings can be given as a buff. Charms can be more of an item. Traps, again, standard traps are always fun if you've not done a falling net or a hidden pit for a while. Throw them back in. Building your own traps, and nuanced traps, deadly traps. So this seems really well thought out and organised for a change. And as I've said before, I prefer books, so flicking through this DMG will actually be a nice experience. Creating adventures. Lay out the premise, drawing the players, plan encounters, bring it to an end, and then dives into those with some adventure situations to inspire heroes of the realm, because, as a level up, they need better missions. That's great. That will do you quite a while in and of itself. Adventure settings, adventure maps. Common map symbols, yeah, drawing your maps. People who love to do that. So, bring it to an end. Adventure samples. So here we go. It actually does you a situation, the hook, the encounters. That's for level 1 characters. Another one for level 2. A one for level 3. What's that? 5, 7... So you can run all those. Creating campaigns. So on a much bigger level. Similar idea, but you've got a campaign journal sheet here. Downloadable. Foreshadowing. Keep a list of your adventure ideas. This is good. I normally have a notepad or even on my phone a notes thing. I'll just have an idea. This person comes to here and they're not who they seem because they're actually this. And I think, I can drop that in somewhere. Character arcs of your antagonist. DM's character tracker, so you know about your key villains perhaps. Conflict suggestions along the way. Things don't always go to plan. But all the different types, like supernatural and mythic, war. Next chapter, it goes to Greyhawk, because Greyhawk is the new favoured setting of this. Forgotten Realms, I think they're all going to still concentrate on that, but this just wanted to bring things back to its OG format for the 50 years anniversary. So yeah, there's a lot of things I can learn from this about Greyhawk. It seems pretty cool. These old adventures actually seem really interesting. And so learning about the entirety of Greyhawk is just unveiling awesome new places to play. And that's awesome. Adventure hooks, Bastion friendly, how to use the city. So yeah, gives new players a new place to adventure. Beyond the city walls, Greyhawk, the Greyhawk Gazetteer, and the Flaness. It really doesn't skim over Greyhawk, which is cool. But outside of that, this is where I'm wanting to focus more videos if people are interested in the whole outer realms. All these places which are so cool, like Limbo. I once ran an adventure in Limbo and I'm like, what is in Limbo? I don't know. Yeah, so there's some videos coming up already scheduled about this chapter which I'd like to dig deeper into. Yggdrasil the World Tree. It's like, what's that? That sounds cool. What does that do? The Blood War. I remember when I didn't know about that. So there's just so much. The Spell Plague, the Ordening, all such cool stuff. Okay, the cornerstone of any DMG and its dragons is the treasure tables, trade goods, gemstones. So roll tables. Let's just, go straight through this. Art objects. Art, I've never understood why we go so much into art. But Potions, rings, rods, this is all the usual stuff. Rarities, awarding magic items. Yeah, I'm a well-known game breaker with my magic items, but you can keep track of how many they actually have as a party if you get into a pickle like I do. Just that I actually like the pickle I get into. Activating a magic item, command word, etc. Cursed item. You know, flicking through this, you realise just how much there is to take in when you're new to the game. But a lot of it you won't need, you know. Don't think of it as a world, think of it as a day in D&D and just start there. What are you going to encounter in that one day? Crafting time and cost, fairly decent. I have other supplements that go much further into crafting magic items and things. But yeah, these tables are a great start. The history, the minor property, the quirk, and then artifacts, again, more tables. Well done. I say well done to them. Sentient magic items, yep, did that fairly early on, but can be a lot on a DM. You sort of forget that you've got to run them all the time. And then we have a huge list of magic items and well laid out with extra tables. It's very, very useful. I don't know if there are many changes to each magic item as such. I imagine there isn't, but you know, there's an alphabet of magic items. And I've probably done a short on most of these and more. What's next? Tables for randomly determining what magic items they find. That's good. I just draw cards, but yeah, this is great. All the, you know, legendary, rare, all those different availabilities. Armaments tables. Okay, different armaments. Implements tables. Different implements. Relics tables. Great. I mean, that seems like really well worth getting the book for on its own. Bastions! Yay! So they should be level 5, but handwave that, do what you want. You can start at level 1 in a bastion if they're rich, if if they're from stock, whatever you want. I would read through the bastion rules and then just blur them to fit. I don't want to worry about the time scale. You can just think of it as a movie in your head and go with that. Those are the rules. And every now and again you can maybe take some gold off them as their minions, take care of the place while you're away, and then it'd be a good fun thing to say, right, you've earned so much money after that quest, how are you going to invest it into your bastion? And there's some rules here, but like I say, they're very malleable. You can do these bastion abilities by basically playing The Sims in D&D, which is cool. And there's not much to cover other than all these are just suggestions and will be wonderful for the players to build in their long-running campaigns. The lore glossary. This is the notable exception. Tomb of Annihilation gave the pronunciation of this. I did a short about it, and now they've changed it to Arserak, whereas before it was Arserak. Now we get the Ararak, which is probably the most sense. Yeah, and it just goes out for everything. Alustriel. Yeah, great. When you hear about Bigby, you can start here and then dig deeper. Boo from Wildspace, Castle Ravenloft, and so on. You get the idea with that. Very, very useful because, as we've discussed, so many things. The Raven Queen, you hear them and you're like, well, who's that? Well, you can find out the Rock of Bral even. That's cool. So yeah, well done, Wizards. I just don't have Zagon the Returners even in it. Yeah, it is. Just full marks. And then we have our maps, which seem to be... Oh no, yeah, there was Greyhawk, but now we have some example maps for us to use. Cool. Hideout, Farmstead, Keep, Manor, Mine, Spooky House, Wizard's Tower. Great work. And then all our tracking sheets to be downloaded once again, should you require them. And then to credits. So as you can see, it's a great product. Is it completely different to the 2014? No, not really. You can still run D&D. You've worked fine with D&D this far running that. But this is just more sensible. It's definitely better. I'm thankful for it. And it just reinvigorates my love for the game. What do you think of it? Let me know. And I'll see you in the PHP video.